Okay, so there are two types of loops we're going to focus on in this section, the for loop and the while loop. And that's pretty much it, just two new pieces of syntax. They can just both be used in a bunch of different ways. So you can probably tell we're starting off with the for loop. For this video and the next couple videos, we'll dive into things like the syntax, some of the quirks of using for loops, as well as a bunch of examples and use cases. And the first thing we should talk about is how the for loop actually works. What's the conceptual idea behind it? So the idea is that we have a collection of data, something that we can iterate over, something we can loop through. So examples might include a list of numbers, which we haven't really talked about lists yet, or it might be something like a string, hello, or any string. And we could loop over for every character. So that's where the word for comes from. It's referring to the idea that we want to do something for every item in this list, for every character in this string, or for every number in this range. And we haven't talked about ranges either, so don't panic if that's unfamiliar. We will see them in this video, and we'll focus a lot in the next video on ranges. But these are three potential things we could loop over using a for loop. So here's the syntax. The first thing I'll point out, for and in, the words in green, do not change. They are Python syntax. Just like if and elif and else, you don't control those. You put them there if you want Python to make this a loop. But item and iterable object are up to you. So we'll start with iterable object. Iterable object, besides being a bit difficult to say 3 times fast, is referring to the collection of data. It's basically what I was showing you here. These are all potential things to iterate over. So these would be the iterable object. And then item is really up to you entirely what you want to call it. It's just going to be a temporary variable, and it references the current position of our iterator within the iterable. Yes, I know it's a lot of jargon there, but it represents wherever we are in the loop currently. So it will iterate over, it will run through every item in this collection, and then after the loop finishes, item will just go away. Each time through, its value changes. So let me make that a bit clearer. Let's say we're working with a string. So we could have for, and let's just call this char in hello. Each time through, char is going to represent a single character in the string. So it would start off the first time through the loop as h. And if we could do something like print char, and then the loop finishes and it starts over, and it goes to e. So char is then e, and then l, and until we hit the end of the string, and then char just disappears. Same thing for a list up here or a range. We'll talk about ranges again in much more detail, but the idea is that whatever this variable is called represents a single part of the iterable collection, and it's constantly updating each time through the loop until it hits the end. So here's an example. We haven't discussed ranges yet, so you'll have to bear with me, but the idea is that a range is a way of quickly generating numbers in a specific range. So an example like this is going to generate the numbers 1 through 7. So if we write range 1, 8, it actually generates the numbers 1 all the way up to 7. So with this syntax here, for number in range 1, 8, you could kind of replace range with this number line here. And each time through the loop, we need that colon, and everything indented underneath that, just like a conditional, is going to run every time through the loop. So in this case, starts off and number is set equal to 1, the first part of the range. So we print number, which is 1. Then the loop starts over, and number is set to 2, the next part of the range, and we print 2. And I'll step through this quicker, but we keep going all the way to the end of the range, and then we're done. Okay, let's just try it out on our own. So I'll make a new file, and I'll just call it for.py. And the first thing we'll do is that exact same for loop that we just had. So for, and this time I'll just call it x in the range of 1, and this time let's go to 10. So it's actually 1 through 9. And we need our colon, and we can start by just printing x. Save the file, and we'll run python 3 for.py, and you can see it prints out 1 through 9. And just like conditionals, we can have as many lines as we want inside of here. So I could also do print x times x. Let's square it. So this time, run it again, and we get 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. So we get the number, and then it's square. Okay, so I'll comment this one out. And let's do, instead of a range, let's work with another iterable collection, this time a string. Let's use a string coffee. Okay, so we'll do 4, and we could name this char or C or X or letter, whatever we want, as long as it's a valid variable name in Python. I'll go with, I kind of like letter in coffee. And we can start simple by just printing letter. Go back here, rerun it, and it just prints out each line individually. Or we could do something silly like print the letter times 10. And now we get
coffee.
And I'll stop there for now. So the two things to take away from this, in the syntax at least, we have an iterable collection, we saw a string, we saw a range, which we'll revisit in the next video. And then a variable that we make up refers to the individual character, the individual number, whatever the item is, or the piece of data in the iterable collection each time we go through the loop. Okay, yeah, it's a lot to talk about up front, but I think examples help make it clearer. So again, next up, we're talking about ranges.